Hello friends, welcome to another edition of Transformational Astrology. We're going to be taking a look at this new moon coming up on Friday, and it's a pretty dynamic new moon. As you know, we've been having so many dynamic configurations lately with the outer planets all involved. These are difficult times and interesting times. The old Chinese proverb states, "May you be born in interesting times," and we certainly have achieved that. And don't forget, by the way, to subscribe to the YouTube channel, which you can do underneath this screen. So without further ado, let's take a look at this new moon. Well, this new moon is really quite interesting, and one thing to notice right away is we have a strong opposition here between Mars and Uranus, both at 16 degrees of cardinal signs opposite each other. Mars a little bit past the 16 degree 39-minute mark that would be represented by Uranus. Once again, we might remember that just because an opposition is slightly past, I mean, it's not as strong as when it's forming, obviously, but we have the new moon happening tomorrow at 19 degrees of Sag, and the sun and moon together. And this actually strengthens the situation. So this is the strongest hit of Uranus and Mars in opposition that's coming up on Friday. The new moon at 19 is just a little bit beyond the 2-degree mark, trining Uranus, or sextile also to Mars. So it really brings out this aspect because the new moon is a strong indication of what's happening. It strengthens and triggers the aspects of the outer planets, and in this particular case, of Mars opposite Uranus. So what does that mean, Mars opposite Uranus? I mean, one thing that we might want to be aware of is there's a predilection for rapid developments, rapid action. It could be that we're moving too fast. We could stumble. We could wind up in even an accident situation. It's something to be aware of. I don't like to dwell on the downside of things, but it is something to be a little bit cautious about. And of course, what helps with that caution is the strong presence of Saturn. Here's Saturn at 8 degrees of Sag, still very close square with Neptune. So we have both the conservative viewpoint of Saturn, and we have also the sort of wild other dimensional reality beyond our three-dimensional reality that is indicated by Neptune. All the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, take us beyond our normal everyday lives into other dimensionality, into transpersonal considerations. Dan Rujar called them the ambassadors of the galaxy. Very interesting to think about how we are evolving, we are changing as a culture, as a society, in combination with these outer planets as they combine with each other. So something else to notice is that now we have Mercury in Capricorn, Saturn's sign, which strengthens Saturn somewhat. The new moon actually being in the same sign as Saturn, only 11 degrees away, less than 11. That also is a sort of a wide conjunction, but it does strengthen Saturn. So we have a conservative viewpoint and we have a very wide open viewpoint, both represented by Uranus. We can notice that Uranus is in addition to being opposite Mars, Uranus is also quite closely semi-sextile, one sign over, not a strong aspect, but still a significant aspect, to Chiron. So we are still very aware of where our inner wounding can trip us up. Chiron refers directly back to inner wounding that happened in an earlier time in our lives, usually from childhood. And we don't deal with these things very well at the time. We have to work with it as we grow. And one important time for that is the Chiron return at age 50, when you can begin to work with, well, you're beginning all along, of course, but that is a landmark of when you begin to actually see through some of the early conditioning, some of it by means of trauma, that has forced you into certain channels. And Uranus is very good at breaking us out of those channels, is it not? I know the book that Jeff Green wrote about Uranus is called Freedom from the Known. And in a way, really, Uranus is undoing the conditioning in the sense that we are open to it. And again, with Saturn, there's a closedness. With Uranus, there's an openness. With Neptune also. So we have the chance to be open to things. We have the chance to be grounded in that being open to things. There's a very positive way we can look at this now, which is that we are getting information all the time that leads us into our next developmental cycle. And we can ignore it or we can pay attention to it. And the more we pay attention to it right now, especially right now in this ending of the year time, the more we pay attention to it, the more we have a chance to move beyond where we were previously stuck, beyond our previous high water mark, I sometimes say, of evolutionary development that we are intended to do, that we really want to be doing. Another thing that's going on right now is the north node of the moon is coming backwards here. This is the north node in Virgo, and it's coming backwards, and there's going to be a conjunction with Jupiter pretty soon. So that's something to think about also, that we're revolving, our destiny is evolving in a practical way, Virgo. We are learning where we are stuck, and we have the opportunity to open to that and to see where we can move past it. But we have to be open to it. You know, noted astrologer Carolyn Casey has a great saying that she uses, which she says, "The gods are willing to help. They're ready and willing to help us. Operators are standing by. But," she said, "spiritual etiquette requires that we ask." And what she means by this is very profound, really, is that we have to make that movement ourselves in the direction of our own evolution. And once we do, and once we open inside to possibilities, which is another key word of Uranus, surprising events, surprising enlightenment that comes from paying closest attention to all the things that are happening to us. Once we open to those possibilities, we really have the chance to move beyond them. And this is the province also of Uranus and Pluto in combination. Their square is forming. Right now it's a little bit over 2 degrees. By the end of the month it'll be under 2 degrees. And then that makes it even stronger. You know, that's a 2-degree mark is important for transits. So even though the period of Uranus and Pluto actually goes beyond this current time frame here, this year, even though the last exact hit was earlier in the year, we know that the Uranus-Pluto effects linger on, as been demonstrated very nicely by Rick Tarnas in his book Cosmos and Psyche, which I'll reference at the end of the talk as one of the resources. So, the brief talk, I should say. So Uranus and Pluto in combination is still very active. This gets closer and closer toward the end of the year, and then it fades away again, gets closer and closer toward the end of the following year. So all the way through to the end of this decade, the next 3 or 4 years, we have a strong influence of Uranus and Pluto, which is a revolutionary, transformational influence that affects us as a culture. It affects us individually as well. So individually, we're moving forward. We're coming to a new beginning for ourselves if we can open to it, if we can see where we really have to take advantage of the opportunities. And this is especially true in this coming Friday, the new moon, because by George, that new moon really packs a punch. There's definitely a lot of Uranus in that new moon, a lot of activity, Mars symbolizing activity. That could be unexpected. There's unexpected information, unexpected openings, the chance to move out of our tracks, out of our ruts that we might be in. And we can take advantage of these if we pay closest attention and really watch what's going on and really evaluate everything that's happening and try to be balanced, of course, try to be not just wild, not just running out everywhere, but trying to run in the direction that we need to go to make the changes that we need to make in our lives to move forward. So that's my quick summary of this new moon coming up. It's a very powerful new moon. It's going to shake us up a little bit. It might shake up world culture in many ways. We've been seeing a lot of unexpected developments lately, of course. And we may see more, and hopefully in the direction of trying to find solutions, trying to find practical solutions that can work in terms of enlightened attitudes, openness, acceptance. Well, in closing, I always like to give resources, and certainly the resource for Uranus is Jeff Green's book, Freedom from the Known. Jeffrey Wolf Green is more known for his Pluto books, which are fantastic. But he wrote a very interesting book about Uranus at the beginning of his career called Freedom from the Known. And that title does imply that we can get away from our early conditioning and we can go into new beginnings if we take it right, if we use it in an appropriate way. Then for Saturn and Neptune, I can recommend Liz Green. She doesn't talk specifically about this square, which was much after she did her work, but she wrote a book about Saturn called Saturn, A New Look at an Old Devil by Liz Green. And then also, she also wrote a terrific book on Neptune, a huge book on Neptune. So those are both valuable resources for picking up on these outer planet archetypes. And all of the outer planet archetypes in general are summarized in Cosmos and Psyche by Rick Tarnas. It's a terrific book, and he talks about very specifically the combination of Uranus and Pluto that we're seeing now. And he talks about how that was active in various times in history in the past, most notably the French Revolution when they were opposed, most notably recently the 60s when they were conjunct, and it really characterized the 60s trying to throw off the establishment patterns and break into new ground, which were still having that thread run through our culture even so today. And now that Uranus and Pluto are coming into square, we see many of those types of things recurring. We see the hemlines going up, we see women's liberation, feminism on the rise once again. We see civil rights on the rise once again in new ways. We have a black president and a female front-runner for president in 2016 in the United States. These are really kind of breakthrough times, as we can tell by looking around. I want to recommend also the book that I wrote about Eris, which is the new planetary energy. It's conjunct Uranus right now, so we're getting a good hit of what Eris really means, and it means, as I've discovered, a feminine warrior energy, a feminist warrior, not a warrior for mercenary purposes or for violence sake, but rather fighting for what you need to fight for in order to have the spiritual evolution that you need, in order to take a stand on very important issues. And with Uranus and Eris in conjunction coming up this summer, we're going to see a very strong hit of Eris in our culture, as reflected by the number of books out. There's 3 books out now on Eris. So mine is called The 10th Planet, Revelations from the Astrological Eris. It's available at Amazon and also AFA Bookstore. And the software that I wrote, Time Passages, has terrific interpretations for Chiron all through, and it also has all these outer planet interpretations for your own natal chart, and in combination with the natal planets. And then we want to make sure that we also don't fail to recommend going ahead and subscribing to the YouTube channel, because it does give you a better presence. You can get reminded about these things even if you miss the newsletter that we send out. And yeah, I think it's very important in these times that we recognize that astrology is a terrific tool for trying to understand what's going on, for understanding as well that we have not just the material world, but we have a lot wider, maybe more spiritual world surrounding us that if we can tune into, we can make some progress individually, and each individual makes a difference. Every individual makes a difference in the way the culture is headed. So have a terrific week, 2 weeks coming up, holiday time in the United States and around the world, and let's pray for peace.